Welcome back to this live Q&A. And if you're new to this space, welcome a little bit extra to this space where I talk about all things related to healing fatigue. And by fatigue, I mean chronic fatigue, I mean post-COVID, burnout, and any other form of fatigue that affects your life so much that you cannot live the life that you want. Sometimes we have a diagnosis, sometimes we don't. You're all welcome here. My intention is for you to receive tidbits of the answers that I have, the experience that I have around this topic, and for this space to be around 15 to 20 minutes, because I know that if you're experiencing fatigue, sometimes it's hard to pay attention to something for longer than a short amount of time. So today I'm going to continue on the topic that I started last week, and with a question that I didn't have time to answer. And that is why healing trauma is relevant on the journey of healing fatigue. So to explain that, I need to start by explaining what I mean by trauma. There are so many different definitions of what trauma is. And the definition I use is based on Peter Levine's work. And he explains that trauma is a perceived threatful experience, a perceived life-threatening experience, an experience where you don't have the tools to handle the situation. Oh, excuse me. So, an experience that is perceived as life-threatening and you don't have the tools to handle the situation. So, very often we think of trauma as the big T traumas. Being in a big accident, a natural disaster, war, some kind of violence or abuse. And all of that is definitely trauma. And then we also have the trauma that we sometimes call trauma with small t. And those are the trauma that from the outside might not look like they're trauma, but to the person experiencing, they are trauma. So let me give you an example of that. Imagine a 3-year-old child sitting at the daycare waiting to be collected by the parent. And the parent doesn't show up when the child expects it. So the child is sitting there and starts to think, my mom's never going to show up. My mom doesn't love me anymore. My mom doesn't want me. And to a 3-year-old, that is very traumatic. Now, this situation can become a trauma for the child or not, depending on several different things. It can depend on the support that this child has around them. Say that, for instance, there is a teacher at the kindergarten that comes up to the child and helps soothe the child and talks to them and says, your mom is going to call and she's going to be a little bit late, so let's do something while we wait for her, or something like that. Or say that the child is used to that their mom is a bit late, so they don't mind. Or the child all of a sudden sees that, ooh, those kids are doing something really fun, so I'm going to go do that. Or the child sits there, receives no support, and is stuck with these thoughts and this experience, and that then becomes a trauma. So what happens in the body? So when we experience something that we perceive as life-threatening, The body starts to build up energy to either fight what is the thing that can cause the thing that is trauma that we experience as life-threatening, or to flee, to run away from it. But if we can't either fight or run away, all that charged energy gets stuck in the body. And it cannot do what we sometimes call completing the stress cycle, which is either fighting or fleeing, releasing the energy, and then we're fine. So say that this 3-year-old sits there and has this traumatic experience, and this trauma gets stuck in the body of the 3-year-old. Now, our bodies are extremely wise. There is a natural tendency to heal. For instance, if you get a paper cut, all you need to do is make sure it's clean and maybe put a Band-Aid on it, and then the body fixes it by itself. The body will heal it without you having to do anything, right? And so with this traumatic experience for the 3-year-old, every time the 3-year-old is in a similar experience, it will try to complete that stress cycle. And if it doesn't, there will be another layer, maybe not as big a trauma as the first one, but another layer. And it will continue to do this. The body will continue to do this until it has the experience of completing the stress cycle. So, why is this relevant in your experience of fatigue? Well, if you look at the definition of trauma, and especially the definition of the trauma with small t, then almost everyone has some kind of form of trauma, right? But not everyone will experience debilitating fatigue. But in my experience and in the research that is coming forth right now, there is so much research that shows that there is a strong connection between trauma and fatigue. And the theory behind this is that all of this trauma is keeping this energy stuck in our body, preventing the flow of energy, preventing the flow of life through our bodies. And I talk a little bit more about this in my last Q&A. So if you missed it, you can go ahead and check that out there. And if we don't have a flow of energy, if we don't have this energy accessible to us, then it becomes fatigue. For some people. For other people, it may be that there is a another physical illness that occurs. And I don't mean to say that fatigue isn't physical. It absolutely is a physical experience, and a mental and a psychological level. This trauma will just express itself in different ways for different people. And as far as I know, there is no research that shows, okay, so if you're experiencing trauma, what is this going to show up as when you're an adult? Is it going to be like some physical illness? Is it going to be fatigue or something else? We don't know. And to me, that's not as relevant as doing trauma healing and completing these stress cycles so that you all of a sudden have access to more of that life force energy. You have access to a bigger flow of energy through your whole body, through your whole being, so that the energy is available for you to do things that you are longing to do. Instead of holding that body, that part of you, prepared to fight or flee, to fight or run away. So imagine that you were to release the trauma in your body. Imagine that you had access to this free flow of energy. I invite you just to imagine for a moment what that would be like. And if you want to, you can soften the gaze or close your eyes and just pretend for a moment that you have done all the healing, that you've done everything you need to complete all the stress cycles, and you have this free flow of energy through your body, through your whole being. And you have as much energy as you want to do whatever you want. What would you do? What are you doing in this space where you have access to all of this? Why don't you just sit with that for a moment. Imagine what you see, what you feel, what you're experiencing, what you smell, what you hear, and what you taste. And allowing that to settle in exactly the way that it needs to, and knowing that you can come back to this whenever you need. Coming back to the room, and as you open your eyes, I invite you to just look around the room or the space that you're in, orienting yourself, moving your head from side to side. Okay, I hope this was useful to you. If you have any more questions around this topic, please let me know, because this topic is huge, right? I could talk for a long time around this, and I'm going to end right here today. And if you're interested in receiving more information, more tips on healing, more tools on healing and transforming fatigue so you can feel alive, go ahead and sign up to my newsletter, which you can do in the link in my bio. There you will also be the first to know of my offerings. So if you don't want to miss that, go ahead and do that. And I invite you to take 3 deep breaths with me to allow all of this information to sink in and integrate. Taking a deep breath in, breathing out with a sigh. Taking a deep breath in again. Breathing out, making the ah sound. And taking a deep breath in again. Breathing out with an ah. And just noticing what that feels like in your body as you're breathing out, saying ah. Okay, loves. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week. Mwah. Take care.